Every year, millions of Australians go looking for a new car. They've got a budget, a list of needs, maybe a vague idea of what they want, and they walk into a market with more than 60 brands and 550 models all competing for their attention. That's a lot of noise. We're here to cut through it. I'm Ali, one of the journalists here at Carsales, and this is the New Car Buyer's Guide. The New Car Buyer's Guide isn't a Car of the Year award. It's not about handing a trophy to whoever sent the flashiest press release. We've looked at Carsales' extensive research and looked at what buyers are actually searching for and picked 5 broad categories: city cars, family SUVs, tradie vehicles, off-road 4x4s and electric vehicles. In each one, we've shortlisted 5 vehicles worth your attention and named one top pick that we think should sit right at the top of your list. That's 25 vehicles total, handpicked from everything available in Australian showrooms right now. Vehicles you can walk in and buy today. How do we pick them? Every category has its own weighted criteria because what matters to an EV buyer is completely different from what matters to someone shopping for a tradie ute or a family SUV. Off-road 4x4s, 5 of the most capable vehicles you can buy in Australia in 2026, covering a serious range of prices, powertrains and purposes. Let's get into it. If there's a vehicle on this list that was engineered specifically for people who want to go fast over rough ground, it's the Ford Ranger Raptor. And at just over $90,000 plus on roads, it backs that promise up with hardware that's genuinely impressive. Under the bonnet is a 3-litre twin-turbo V6 producing 292 kilowatts and 583 newton meters, connected to a 10-speed automatic. The result is a 0 to 100 time of 5.7 seconds in a vehicle that weighs more than 2.4 tonnes. That number doesn't make sense until you've experienced it. But the real story is the suspension. The adaptive Fox dampers aren't standard shock absorbers. They're an electronically reactive system that adjusts their internal valving hundreds of times per second in response to terrain. Combine that with the wider track, an uprated front differential, mechanical locking diffs front and rear, and BF Goodrich all-terrain tyres, and the Raptor is engineered end-to-end for high-speed off-road performance in a way that nothing else at this price point can match. 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, and the first 5 years of servicing come in at just under $1,600 total. For a vehicle at this price point and performance level, that's sharp. A couple of things to be aware of. The Raptor's payload is 651 kilos, lower than many conventional utes in this segment. If you're loading up 2 adults, a rooftop tent, recovery gear, and camping equipment, do the maths carefully before you head off. Similarly, the 2,500 kilogram towing capacity sits below the segment standard if serious towing is part of your plan. Those are the engineering trade-offs that make the Raptor what it is. The Fox suspension, the wider track, the performance bias. None of that comes free. If maximum payload and towing are your priorities, the LandCruiser we're about to cover gives a very different answer. But if you want the most engaging 4x4 to drive at pace over rough ground, the Raptor is built to go fast. The next vehicle on our list is built for something entirely different. It's built to go everywhere for as long as you want to keep going. The Toyota LandCruiser 300 series occupies a category of its own in the Australian market. It sells in strong numbers at prices that start at just over $99,000 and climb to more than $147,000 plus on roads. The waiting lists have barely eased since it launched. The reason is straightforward. It's one of the most capable and trusted long-distance touring vehicles ever built. And in 2026, that reputation remains entirely earned. The 300 series runs a 3.3-litre twin-turbo V6 diesel, 227 kilowatts and 700 newton meters. Enough grunt for the full 3,500 kilos of braked towing capacity. Enough to return 8.9 litres per 100 on a 2.6-tonne vehicle. And it does it with a smoothness that ladder frame four-wheel drives don't always manage on tarmac. Ground clearance sits at 245 millimetres. The GR Sport adds front and rear locking differentials, and the 5-star ANCAP safety rating from 2022 testing gives you genuine peace of mind. The resale story is worth understanding too. LandCruiser 300 series values hold with a consistency that almost no other vehicle in this category matches. Brand trust, parts availability, and a long-term reliability record. You're unlikely to regret this purchase financially over a 5-year ownership period. What's more, a hybrid version of the LandCruiser has just arrived, in case you wanted something a little more frugal and a lot more powerful. The one thing worth understanding before you sign is the service schedule. The LandCruiser 300 runs on 6-month or 10,000 kilometre intervals, whichever comes first. That's shorter than the segment standard, which means 10 service visits over 5 years rather than the 5 or 6 you'd see from some rivals. Each visit is capped at $450, totaling $4,500 over 5 years. Factor that into your cost of ownership calculation alongside the purchase price. The cabin at the top of the range is very good. It's spacious, well equipped, and available in 5 or 7-seat configurations. But at $147K plus on roads, it's worth a close comparison against what else that money gets you. The 300 series earns its price on capability and long-term value, not on interior luxury alone. The LandCruiser is the benchmark for long-distance touring capability. The Jeep Wrangler Rubicon is the only vehicle on this list that was designed from the chassis up with the explicit assumption that the road is just the part you tolerate to get to the actual terrain. It is a factory fresh rock crawler, starting at just under $82,000 plus on roads for the 2-door or just under $85K for the 4-door. And it delivers genuine off-road capability that no amount of aftermarket tinkering on a standard SUV can replicate. Here's what makes it different. The Rubicon runs solid axles front and rear, a 4-to-1 low-range transfer case, twin diff locks, and a disconnecting front sway bar that allows each wheel to travel further independently over uneven terrain. The vertical wheel travel this combination produces is class-leading on technical tracks. If you've spent time on serious rock-crawling terrain, you understand what that means in practice. If you haven't, it means the Rubicon gets through terrain that stops the other vehicles on this list. The powertrain is a 2-litre turbo petrol 4-cylinder producing 200 kilowatts and 400 newton meters. More efficient and more tractable than the older V6 it replaced, and well suited to low-speed crawling where torque management matters more than outright power. The cabin is characterful and genuinely enjoyable. Napa leather, a 12.3-inch infotainment system, and a retro aesthetic that's fun to spend time in. 5 years of capped price servicing comes in at just under $2,000 total. The Rubicon is very clear about what it is and what it isn't. It doesn't have a current ANCAP safety rating. It received 3 stars when it was last tested back in 2019. If safety score is a key factor in your decision, that is important context. Not a reason to rule it out, but it is something to weigh consciously. Fuel consumption in tougher off-road use will run above the claimed 9.7 litres per 100, and the cabin lets in more road noise than the LandCruiser or Raptor at highway speeds. The solid axle setup and upright body are part of what makes it so capable off-road, and that's the trade-off on the road. This is not a car that tries to be all things. If you want a daily driver that's also occasionally capable off-road, the Raptor or LandCruiser are better balanced choices. If you want the most capable pure off-roader on this list and you're willing to accept those trade-offs, the Rubicon is a genuinely compelling vehicle. The Wrangler is the purist's choice. The GWM Tank 300 is one of the more interesting vehicles to arrive in the Australian four-wheel drive market in recent years, and it starts from less than $48,000 drive away. That's a significant gap to the Raptor, the LandCruiser, and the Wrangler. And the question worth answering is what you're actually getting for the difference. The answer is more than you might expect. The Tank 300 is built on a genuine ladder frame chassis shared with the GWM Cannon Ute. The transmission is a ZF 8-speed, the same supplier used by BMW, Porsche, and Land Rover. The transfer case is a Borg Warner, and in Ultra trim, you get mechanical front and rear locking differentials. 3 years ago, that was hardware reserved for vehicles costing twice this amount. The powertrain options span a 2-litre turbo petrol, a turbo diesel with 135 kilowatts and 480 newton meters, and a plug-in hybrid producing 300 kilowatts and 750 newton meters with up to 115 kilometers of electric range. We've tested the Tank 300 on serious tracks and found it genuinely capable. It defies its relatively modest ground clearance of 224 millimeters through good approach and departure angles. And it's gaining real traction in the off-road aftermarket space. Buyers are building on the base and finding it rewards that investment. 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty across the range is standard. 5-star ANCAP safety rating from 2022 testing is also on this vehicle. A few things worth knowing before you drive one. The Michelin Primacy tyres fitted to standard variants are road-focused. They're not necessarily off-road rubber. Enthusiastic off-road buyers often look at an all-terrain tyre upgrade early in ownership. The active aftermarket community around this vehicle makes that straightforward, and it's worth budgeting for if you're buying it for off-road use. As a first-generation Chinese four-wheel drive in Australia, the Tank 300's long-term reliability track record is still being established. The hardware underneath is proven. ZF, Borg-Warner, solid ladder frame. The warranty is strong, and the early ownership data is encouraging. But it's fair to factor that context into your thinking alongside the price advantage. The Tank 300 is the value case for serious off-road capability. The Suzuki Jimny is the smallest and most affordable vehicle on this list, starting from just over $31,000 before on-road costs. It's also, in certain conditions, one of the most capable. That's not a contradiction, it's physics. The 3-door Jimny weighs 1,075 kilograms. The Raptor, by comparison, weighs more than 2.4 tonnes. On the soft surfaces where physics actually decides who gets through, deep sand, boggy bush tracks, steep beach access trails, a lighter vehicle with solid axles and a dual-range transfer case will often outperform a heavier, more powerful one. The Jimny has solid axles front and rear, 210mm of ground clearance and genuine dual-range 4x4 capability. It's been going places that embarrass much more expensive vehicles for decades. The 5-door XL variant adds 340mm to the overall length and wheelbase, which meaningfully improves rear seat space and practicality without changing what makes the Jimny the Jimny. Fuel economy comes in just under 7 litres per 100. 5 years of servicing totals just over $2,200. Suzuki's 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty applies across the range, and it's an enormously characterful thing to spend time in. The limitations are real, and it's worth being upfront about them. The 1.5-litre naturally aspirated engine is working hard at highway speeds, noticeably harder than anything else on this list. On longer freeway stretches, you'll hear it. Cabin space is tight, cargo room is limited, and payload after 2 adults and basic recovery gear leaves little room for a fully loaded touring setup. The ANCAP rating hasn't been updated since 2019 when it scored just 3 stars. And the Jimny is best understood as a weekend and trail vehicle rather than a long-distance tourer. It's not trying to be the LandCruiser, and it would lose that comparison badly if it tried. None of that changes what the Jimny is genuinely excellent at, but it's worth going in with an honest picture of both sides. 5 very different vehicles, 5 very different answers to the question of what an off-road four-wheel drive should be. Let's bring it together. The Ford Ranger Raptor, the performance benchmark. Fox live valve suspension, 292 kilowatts, and an engineering story that genuinely earns the price tag for buyers who want to go fast over rough ground. The Toyota LandCruiser 300 series, the long-distance standard. 3.5-tonne towing, 245mm of clearance, resale values that make the premium easier to swallow, and a reputation built on decades of getting Australians to remote places and back. The Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, the purist's choice. Solid axles, twin diff locks, a 4-to-1 transfer case, and the only vehicle here designed from the ground up for the terrain, not the road. The GWM Tank 300, the value case. ZF transmission, Borg-Warner transfer case, mechanical lockers, and a 7-year warranty. Serious hardware at a price that changes what's possible for buyers on a tighter budget. And the Suzuki Jimny, the lightweight specialist. Solid axles, dual-range four-wheel drive, and a weight advantage that makes it genuinely capable on soft terrain that stops much heavier vehicles. Starting from just under $32,000, nothing else on this list comes close. Our top pick in the off-road four-wheel drive category is the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. Here's the reasoning. Across the criteria that matter most in this segment, genuine off-road capability, engineering purpose, and how well the vehicle delivers on what it promises, the Rubicon makes the most complete case. The solid axle configuration, the 4:1 low-range transfer case, the twin diff locks, the disconnecting front sway bar, together those give it a level of technical off-road capability that other vehicles on this list, for all of their strengths, just can't replicate. It was built for this specific purpose, and it shows in every engineering decision. It's not the most comfortable daily driver, it's not the best tow vehicle, and it's not the most frugal at the Bowser. But if the question is which vehicle on this list is most genuinely capable when the terrain gets serious, the Rubicon is a very clear answer. I'll be honest, this is the category where everyone has a very strong opinion, and I expect the comment section to reflect that. This is one of 5 categories in our 2026 New Car Buyer's Guide. If it isn't the right category for you, then one of the others probably is. We've covered city cars, family SUVs, off-road four-wheel drives, tradie vehicles, and electric vehicles. You can check out the full guide at carsales.com.au.